AP US History Journey. Before we start, I just want to remind you guys to check out College Board's course and exam descriptions. Period 1 is only 4 to 6% of your exam. That's why it's not going to come out much during your AP exam. However, it is important that you learn everything that is on the curriculum. So I'm going to briefly go over Period 1. Basically, the time period before Christopher Columbus's arrival in the New World is called the pre-Columbian era, and this is when Native Americans prevailed the North American continent. The Native Americans were the descendants of migrants that have crossed the Bering Strait from Asia to North America, and it occurred 15,000 to 40,000 years ago. Many of these Native American empires were advanced and highly organized. In fact, living along the Atlantic Ocean, the Iroquois and the Algonquian had permanent agricultures and were one of the first to encounter the European settlers. Natives of the Southwest. The ancestral pueblos include Anasazi, Mogollon, and Hohokam, and this southwest region expanded throughout the present-day Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Texas, Utah, and also Mexico as well. Pueblo is the Spanish-given term meaning town, and people lived in villages of permanent stone and mud buildings with thatched roofs. The Anasazi were ancestral pueblos residing in the Four Corners region of Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona. Basically, the Apache and Navajo tribes arrived in the Pueblo from the Pacific Northwest and remained distant and distinct from the Pueblos originally living in the region. There were many complex irrigation systems that the ancestral Pueblos practiced. Women made ceramic pots for holding surplus foods, and agriculture was what dictated the way of life for ancestral Pueblos. With the surplus food and the stability, the sedentary life became more possible, except for the Navajos and Apaches that lived by hunting and gathering. The Chaco Canyon is important as it was a trade hub and home to the Anasazi people. The Chacoans created 400 miles of roads connecting the towns of other villages in the region. In addition to the farm labor, women raised children performing household tasks. Men dominated farming. Another very important group that you need to know is the natives of the West. The West is very diverse, as the western part of the present-day U.S. extended from the top corners of Washington to California into Nevada, Utah, Colorado, and Idaho. If you see here, the Great Basin and the Sierra Nevadas are prominent regions in which Indian tribes lived in. Many foraged for food, some hunted, some fished, and some practiced agriculture. Acorns were used as currencies, and the people in California lived in wickiups, which is like a form of house made in woods, leaves, and brush. Sedentary stay was possible, and there was a very densely populated area in which the natives of the West lived in. In the less densely populated areas, there were tribal relationships called tribelets, and tribelet is 100,000 people aligning culturally. Many practiced rituals because they wanted good luck when hunting and other ways of finding food as well. Natives of the Northeast. Natives of the Northeast, you need to remember about the three sister farming of squash, beans, and corn, establishing the permanent and the larger villages throughout the Ohio River Valley. And there were common food practices such as shifting towards the three sister farming. Fishing, gathering also took place. Three Sisters became cash crops because they became high in demand by the natives of the plains and the West Coast for those that were eager to train. Mound building took place. Another thing was that because they lived off of farming, they needed to fortify their villages and protect what they harvested. So there were some intertribal violence, but they worked it out by creating the Great League of Peace, and the Iroquois is arguably known to have created the first American democracy. Natives of the Southeast. It includes the Cherokees, Choctaws, the Chickasaws, and Creeks and the Seminoles, and the Mississippian culture dominated this place from the beginning of the Hopewellian period. Cahokia, near St. Louis, is a trade hub that you need to know for the natives of the Southeast. And Monk's Mound is famous for being the largest pre-contact work of art in earth of 100 feet in height. Mississippi River had stone and clay items and the dugout canoes. The Mississippi River was very useful for farming, and many people lived in hamlets or villages which formed the political units of 1,000 people. Southeast Native Americans organized villages around chiefdoms. Large mounds were built. Natives of the plains, the geographic and temporal settings across flatlands as the region spreads to the north and the east of the Rocky Mountains and up to 400 miles across flatlands of the United States. There were many ways of attaining food, including agriculture, but hunting was the main way, and agriculture took place during prosperous times or when a river was nearby their settlement.